Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here, and we're doing a little bit of beer gets from the old Beer Tube Palooza. This one comes courtesy of Steven. A little bit of revolution up in this piece. This is the Supermassive. You get it? You get it? Supermassive Cafe Deth. Imperial Stout with coffee. Part of their Deepwood series. Revolution Brewing. Proudly crafted with dark matter coffee. Imperial Stout, aged in bourbon barrels, steeped with coffee. Coming in at 14.3% alcohol by volume. Story time in the back. Says, inspired in part by the disconcertingly large gravitational singularity, words are hard, at the end of the galaxy, we devised the Supermassive Cafe Deth to be the midpoint of a theoretical bourbon barrel aged stout coffee continuum. After a painstaking 18 months of aging, this slightly sweet blend of Death Star meets its cosmic binary in the form of freshly roasted, dark matter coffee to the tune of 10 pounds per oak barrel. Enjoy immediately or store cold. This was filled June 30th, 2021. It's been in Steven's basement. I will attest, Steven's basement has not been kept cold. So we'll see where the sucker lands. You're talking about a bourbon barrel aged coffee beer. Obviously, the coffee, you're talking about 2 years, a bit over 2 years later. Coffee is probably falling off. You're 14% barrel aged stout. Revolution. It's got to be a good beer, right? We will find out. So it's pouring out exactly like you expect this thing to pour out, which is straight up motor oil. Label wise, it's what they do. Revolution. It's that kind of, gold black with that splotching of red they do with their whole logo thing and art design, and I dig it. I do dig it. Skulls and coffee, and what more do you want? Good times. Beer wise. Dark would be a word for that. Even when you look at that head, how rich and just, thick and rich, and how all that lacing and all that richness, darkness, all the words that mean dark kind of come through. So you're talking about elevated past malted malt ball color, kind of like where I'm at, like my coffee to look colored head, and then super dark, thick blackness that is dark. Let's get a nose. Man, that coffee is huge. Now, I would say this beer probably has, or Death Star in general probably has big, or does, not probably, does have big roasted components that come off like coffee. Very much richer here. Huge roasty toastiness. Definitely leaning in that dark roast kind of coffee. Nothing like green or herbal. A little even like a jalapeno skinny. A lot of those things that I can get from coffee. This is ultra dark roast. Big roast components. Big, huge malty components. You definitely get a big portion of beer here. And oddly enough, from my experience, usually most of these Revolution beers tend to be barrel forward. Not going to get huge spirit here. Sure, a bit of barrel char, a little bit of vanilla, but it's really the beer and the coffee that are leading the way, at least aromatically. Definitely not in a negative way. You're talking about a beer that's 2 years old that they said drink fresh. Keep cold if not. It wasn't kept cold. It's not fresh. I think it smells fantastic. Huge coffee note vibes on the nose. Let's dive in. Cheers, y'all. That's tasty. That's tasty. I can kind of see it might be a little bit more. Rewind. I can see it definitely would be a bit more coffee forward if it was fresher. But I don't necessarily think it's. I don't think it's 100% its prime where it is. I think a bit more coffee would do this beer a little bit better, only because the spirit definitely comes off a touch sweet here, and I think a little bit more roasty, toasty coffeeness would temper that a little bit. You're still getting a decent amount of coffee here. A really nice stout base. No shit Sherlock. It's Revolution. They know what the hell they're doing with these beers. With this nice kind of drinkable density that doesn't get overly hefty. Again, coffee is there. It's muted a bit. There's almost a little bit more of an echo of coffee's past. Usually say ghost hops of hops past, or hops ghost of ghost past. You know what I'm trying to say. But it's that coffee version of that, where you're getting coffee, but you know it's a little bit more oomph, a little more chutzpah when it's a bit fresher. And the spirit here does come off a bit kind of sweet. Not saccharine sweet, but a little bit more sweet than you'd like it to be. Almost like they add in like a little dollop of cherry cordial to it. That kind of how it comes off to me in the sweetness. But if you had that little bit of roasty toastiness from the coffee, I think it'll be a little bit more balanced, a little bit more harmonic, for the lack of a better term, but a really tasty beer nonetheless. And honestly, listen, I'm sitting here, I'm drinking through a lot of the stuff that we had through Beer 2 Palooza. You know, a lot of it has been lagers, low ABV hazy, stuff like that. And I just wanted something of barrel-aged ilk. You know, something that has a rich toastiness to me. And I remember Steven pulled this out of his basement right before I left. And he was like, yeah, man, take this. It has the word massive in it. Anytime you can connect those two together, I'm a fan. So, yeah, he's like, yeah, grab this, review it. And I'm glad I did, you know, because it's a very tasty beer. A little bit more kind of herky-jerky than what I typically expect from Revolution beers, whether it be their barley wine or their stout series. But, again, it's a coffee stout. They're talking about drink it fresh or keep it cold. And even if it wasn't kept in those kind of environments, it still ended up a really, really good beer. And a fun one. I'm glad I got to review it. Not just because of my namesake. You know, they obviously named this beer after me. But it's a joke, by the way. Just in general. To have a nice, tasty, fun beer. Memories hanging out. It's past week at Beer 2 Palooza. So, there you go. A little bit of Revolution Supermassive Cafe Deth Imperial Stout. Aged in bourbon barrels with copious amounts of coffee. Isn't one of the better Imperial Stouts that I've had as of late. Or barrel-aged Imperial Stouts I've had late. Yes. Our summer stouts, on the outside looking a bit very, very tasty, considering its age, especially, with that coffee typically falling off quite a bit, but it's still definitely there. Coffee beers, it's probably a little bit higher, to be perfectly honest with you, but just tasty beer nonetheless. You know, Revolution, have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? Have you had this particular beer? Have you had this beer when it was fresh? Have you had it when it was a bit aged? That conversation would be quite cool in this video. So if you have that time, write it down there. Let's talk about it. There you go. Review on the books. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of Revolution Brewing right now. We'll see you next time. Cheers, y'all.